Rain poured from the sky like the heavens had cracked open. Each drop slammed against the metal roof of the small wooden cabin, hidden deep in the forest mountains inside the cabin. Jack sat alone by a weak fire, his eyes stared into the flames. But his mind wandered somewhere far away. He had been alone for months, no phone, no neighbors. Only the wild wind and distant calls of animals kept him company. He liked it that way. After the war, he didn't want noise, didn't want people asking questions, didn't want to remember the pain. But that night something changed. A strange humming filled the air. It wasn't thunder, it wasn't a plane. The sound grew louder and sharper until it shook the walls of the cabin. Jack stood up and stepped. Outside the sky was glowing, not lightning, not fire, something else. Then came the crash. A flash of light hit the far side of the mountain. The ground trembled under his boots. Trees in the distance snapped. Flames reached into the sky for a moment. Then everything went silent again. Jack didn't think. He grabbed his old coat and a flashlight and ran into the forest. His legs moved on instinct. Something deep inside him said go now. The path was rough. Branches slapped his face. Rain soaked him from head to toe. But he didn't stop when he reached the crash site. His heart froze. There was a crater in the earth. Smoke curled upward. Metal pieces glowed with heat. But what caught his eyes was not the ship, it was the girl. She stood just at the edge of the crater, her body shaking, her skin pale blue like moonlight, her silver eyes wide and glowing. She wore something that looked like armor, but it was torn and damaged. Blood or something like it ran down her arm. She looked at him, not with fear, not with hate, just confusion and pain. Then she collapsed. Jack didn't think twice. He lifted her in his arms. She was warm, too warm, and light, like holding air, wrapped in skin. He brought her back to the cabin, laid her on the old couch, covered her with a blanket. She muttered words in a language he didn't know. Her body twisted as if in pain. He didn't know what to do. He sat beside her all night, watching her breathe, watching her struggle. When the morning came, her fever was worse, but she opened her eyes. Those silver eyes stared at him again. This time softer. She reached out, touched his face, then whispered something. He shook his head. I don't understand, he said gently. She tried again, different words this time, still nothing he could recognize. But she watched him, every move, every word, like she was studying him. Days passed. He gave her food, water, cleaned her wounds, and little by little she began to understand. She started mimicking his words. Touch fire, name Jack. She pointed at him, said, Jack. Then she pointed at herself, said something like Ara. Jack smiled, a name, a connection. The days turned into weeks. Her body healed fast, too fast. Jack knew she wasn't human, not by any measure, but somehow he didn't care. She learned more words, started walking around the cabin, studying everything. The fire, the books, the pictures. She would sit by the window at night, looking up at the stars with a faraway look in her eyes. Sometimes she would hum a strange melody, soft and sad. Jack found himself watching her more and more, her movements, her voice, the way she looked at things like she was seeing them for the first time. She was calm, peaceful, but there was something hiding underneath. One night the wind howled outside. The fire burned low. Ara sat on the floor, her back to Jack, her hands in her lap. She turned slowly, looked at him, her silver eyes glowing again. She stood up, walked over, and gently took his hand in hers. Her skin felt hot, like touching sunlight. Jack looked at her, surprised, but he didn't pull away. She closed her eyes. Her lips moved, whispered a single word in her language. Then her eyes opened. They weren't just glowing now, they were burning, alive with something he couldn't name. Jack didn't understand the words she said, but he felt something change. The air around them felt heavy, like the moment before lightning strikes. Ara looked at him, her voice soft, her body trembling. Then she let go of his hand, took a step back, and sat down again. Silent. Jack stared at her, heart beating louder than before. He didn't know what was happening, but something had begun, and it couldn't be stopped now. Jack hadn't slept all night. He sat near the dying fire, staring at the girl who now rested quietly on the crushera, the alien girl with silver eyes, the girl who had fallen from the stars, The girl who touched his hand and made the air feel like it was alive. He still didn't know what she whispered that night. But something inside him shifted. It wasn't fear, it wasn't confusion, it was something deeper. Something that made him question what he really was afraid of. The next morning, Jack stepped outside to gather firewood. The rain had stopped, the trees stood still. The forest was too quiet when he came back. He found her standing in front of the mirror. She wasn't moving, just staring at her reflection. Jack paused. She lifted her hand, slowly touched the mirror. Her fingers trembled. She didn't seem to recognize herself. Then she looked at him through the mirror. Her voice was soft. "I change." Jack stepped closer. "What do you mean?" She turned around, eyes glowing faintly. "My body, it moves inside. I do not control it." He walked to her, tried to understand. "Are you in pain?" She shook her head. "No, not pain, different. My skin feels like sun. My blood sings when I see you." Jack's heart skipped. He didn't know what to say, didn't know what she meant. But something about her words stayed in his chest. That night Jack noticed the changes. Even Morero walked barefoot outside in the cold. But her body didn't shake. She didn't feel the chill. She stood still, under the stars with her arms raised like she was listening to the sky. Jack watched from the window. Then came the drawings. Symbols appeared on the wooden walls, carved gently with her fingernails, not deep, but strange, curved lines and circles. Some looked like planets, some looked like eyes, all glowing faintly when touched. Jack asked her, "What are these?" She touched one symbol, closed her eyes. "Memory home warning." Jack frowned. Warning for who? She didn't answer. Later that night, Jack cooked a simple meal, beans and potatoes. He placed a plate in front of her. She looked at it for a moment, then picked up the fork, bit into the food, chewed slowly. She smiled. "It tastes like the ground after rain." Jack laughed softly. "That's a strange way to describe food." She tilted her head. "It means safe." They ate in silence, but not the heavy kind. It was a peaceful silence, a silence that shared warmth. Jack noticed the way she watched everything, the fire, the flicker of light on wood, his face. She was learning not just language, but feelings, reactions, human things. The next morning, Jack found her sitting by the fire with one of his books, a children's book, simple drawings, simple words. She looked up when he entered. Her smile gentle. "Jack, why do humans cry?" He paused, sat down across from her. "Because sometimes feelings are too big for the heart, so they come out through the eyes." She nodded slowly, touched the corner of her own eye. "I think I understand." Then her face changed, eyes turning cloudy. "My people, we do not cry. We sing when we feel pain. We sing when we love, but I have not sung in many moons." Jack leaned forward. "You miss your home." She looked into the fire. "I miss what it used to be. Before rules, before fear, before they told me who I could love and who I could not." Jack's chest felt tight. "Someone hurt you?" She nodded once. "I was not supposed to feel, but I did. They saw it as weakness. So they sent me away to learn control, to forget." She looked at him now. "But when I woke in your cabin and saw your eyes, I remembered again." Jack stood up. He needed air. He stepped outside, closed his eyes. This wasn't just a crash. This wasn't just some alien he found in the woods. This was something bigger, something dangerous, something deep. Later that night, Jack woke from a dream. The cabin was dark, the fire out. But he heard movement. He turned to see her standing beside his bed. Her body glowed faintly, her breathing fast, her eyes shining with something between fear and heat. She whispered, "It's starting. I feel the pull. The change is near. You must not touch me, not until I understand what I am becoming." Jack sat up. "Era, what's happening to you?" She stepped back, voice shaking. "My species, we have a cycle. Once in our life we must bond. It chooses for us. We do not control it." Jack stood slowly. "You mean like mating, like love?" She nodded. "It begins when the body recognizes something, a voice, a presence, a soul that fits. Then the change comes. If the bond is not answered, it will destroy the one who carries it." She looked at him now, eyes full of sorrow. "I think my body has chosen." Jack took a slow breath. And you think it chose me? She didn't. Answer, she didn't need to. Her silence spoke louder than any words. He stepped forward, reached for her hand, but she pulled back. No, not yet. If you touch me now, and your heart does not match mine, it will break me. Jack lowered his hand. Then, we wait. We figure this out together. I'm not going anywhere. She stared at him, eyes wet but not crying. Do not know if I will survive this, but if I must fall, I want to fall with you, watching the stars beside me. Jack felt something rise in his chest, not fear, not doubt, just warmth. She turned slowly, went back to the couch, laid down. The room was quiet again. But Jack knew nothing would ever be the same now. The wind outside howled through the forest like a warning carried from a distant world. Inside the cabin, Era stood near the fireplace, her arms wrapped around herself, her silver eyes glowing faintly as the flames danced across her skin. Jack watched her from the doorway. He could see it, the tension in her body, the way her breath shook each time she exhaled. She had stopped eating, stopped talking for more than a few words. Something was happening inside her, something powerful, something she couldn't control. Jack approached slowly. You're burning up again. He reached for her shoulder. She stepped back without a word. Era, talk to me. Tell me what's going on. She closed her eyes, her voice quiet. I warned you. I told you it was coming. Jack waited, let her speak in her own time. She finally opened her eyes. The cycle is beginning. It's stronger than I expected, faster too. I thought I had more time. Jack sat down, trying to stay calm. What does that mean? What happens now? She knelt beside him, her hands shaking. In my species, bonding is not casual. It is everything. Once the body begins the cycle, it must finish. If the bond is returned, it creates a connection that lasts for life. If it is rejected, the body begins to break. Mind, heart, spirit all become unstable. Jack listened, every word hitting him like a stone. So you're saying you could die from this? She nodded. Yes, but it is more than death. It is being unmade. I would forget myself, lose who I am. Jack leaned forward, his voice low. Can't we stop it? Can't we delay it somehow? She shook her head. No one has ever stopped the cycle. It comes once, and only once. The room fell silent. Only the soft sound of firewood crackling filled the air. Era stood and moved toward the window. She placed her hand against the cold glass. When I look at you, my body reacts. My blood moves faster. I hear a rhythm, like music under my skin. Jack walked over, stood beside her. I feel something too. I don't know what it is, but it's real. And it's not just because you're different. It's because you're you. Era turned to him, her voice softer now. But if your feelings are not the same, if your heart doesn't match mine, the bond will tear me apart. Jack looked into her glowing eyes. What if I don't know yet? What if I need time? She smiled, but it was a sad smile. Time is the one thing I no longer have. That night the cabin became quiet again, too quiet. Even the forest outside seemed to hold its breath. Jack tried to sleep, but his mind refused to rest. He thought about her, the way she looked at the stars, the way she whispered his name like it was precious, the way her touch had felt like light. He didn't want to lose her. Not to this, not to something he didn't understand. He stood from bed, walked to the couch where she lay. Era opened her eyes. I can feel it. My pulse is too fast. My body is calling for you. Jack knelt beside her. You said it's not just physical. You said it's emotional too. She nodded. Yes, the connection begins with emotion, but it becomes more. It becomes everything. Jack took a breath. I don't want you to break because of me. I don't want you to suffer. Era reached up, touched his face. Then leave before the cycle deepens. Go now and I may survive it. But Jack didn't move. No, I'm not leaving you. Her hand fell away. Then stay with me, but do not touch, not until your heart is sure. Because once the bond is complete, there is no way back. In the days that followed, her behavior changed again. She stopped humming, stopped looking at the stars. She became restless, pacing the cabin, eyes glowing brighter with each hour. She began speaking in her native language during sleep, crying out in sounds Jack couldn't understand. One morning she collapsed near the fire, her body shaking, her skin glowing too hot to touch Jack. Rushed to her side, but stopped just short of contact. "Era, please, what do I do?" She opened her eyes, barely able to speak. "You feel something, but you're not ready. And I'm breaking." Jack felt helpless. He had fought in wars, faced death, seen pain. But nothing had prepared him for this. Not for the sight of someone beautiful, someone otherworldly, fading away because of love she couldn't receive that night. He sat outside under the stars, thinking. He thought about the first moment he saw her. Glowing silver eyes in the smoke, how she had learned his name, how she smiled when she tasted human food, how she carved memories into his walls. He thought about how he felt when she looked at him. Not fear, not confusion, but a strange kind of peace, something deeper than logic, stronger than reason. He returned inside. She lay on the floor, too weak to move. He knelt beside her, spoke softly. "I don't know if I understand all this, but I know what I feel when I see you. I know what it means when I think of losing you." She looked at him, eyes glowing like a fading sun. "And what do you feel?" Jack leaned closer, voice trembling. "I feel like I've been asleep my whole life. And now, because of you, I'm finally awake." Her hand reached for his, stopped just before contact. Jack made the choice. Slow, careful, he took her hand in his, the glow around her body pulsed, not in pain, but in relief. Her voice came as a whisper. "You waited, you listened, now we become." And in that moment, something unseen passed between them. Not just heat, not just energy, but something ancient, something written in them stars long before they ever met. The bond had formed. Era was no longer glowing in pain. Her skin had calmed, her voice had steadied, her body stopped trembling, but something had changed in the air. Forest around the cabin felt heavier, the silence deeper, even the wind had gone. Still, Jack felt it before he saw anything, like the world was holding its breath. Hera stood by the window, her silver eyes staring out at the treetops. "They know." Jack turned to her. "Who knows?" She didn't move, didn't blink. "My people, they felt the bond. They always do once it's made. It echoes through space." Jack stepped closer. "Will they come for you?" She nodded. "They will not understand. They will try to take me back. They will say, I have broken our law because I chose a human." Jack clenched his jaw. "Then let them come. I won't let them take you." Era looked at him with something like sorrow. "They are not like you. They do not speak before acting. They do not feel as you do. They see bonding with a human as a sickness, a weakness." Jack walked outside, looked up at the sky. Clouds were rolling in again, but it wasn't a storm. A soft hum filled the air. It grew louder with each passing second. Then he saw Ida's silver shape, smooth and sharp, floating above the trees, silent, effortless. Era stepped out beside him, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's a seeker, a drone. It scans for life, emotion, bond, energy." Jack raised his old rifle out of habit. Era placed a hand on the barrel. "No use. That weapon will not touch. It exists between layers of matter. It sees without eyes." The drone hovered. Beams of soft light passed over the cabin. Over Jack, over Era. Jack felt something pass through his chest. Cold, empty, like being pulled open and stitched back together. Then it moved on back toward the sky. Jack looked at Era. "Did it find you?" She looked down. "Yes, it always does. Now they will come in person." That night, Era didn't eat, didn't sleep. She sat by the fireplace, drawing more of her symbols on the floor with charcoal. Each symbol pulsed gently with a soft white light. Jack watched her, tried to understand. "What are those?" She looked up. "Memory holders. If I lose myself, these will help me return." Jack walked over, kneeled beside her. "You're not losing yourself. Not now, not ever." She smiled at him, but her eyes were heavy. "They won't just take me. They will try to remove the bond. Cut it out like a disease. It will break my mind and yours." Jack stood up. "There has to be another way." Era looked toward the fire. "There is, but it comes with a price." She reached out, touched his forehead with her fingertips. In an instant, images flooded Jack's mind. Era's world, bright skies, floating cities, beings of light and motion. Rules etched in crystal, voices that spoke through energy. He saw her birth, her exile, her loneliness, her heart reaching through the stars. Then it ended. Jack gasped, fell back against the wall. Era pulled her hand away, her voice calm. Now you have seen me, all of me. Now you carry part of me inside. Jack struggled to catch his breath. I felt everything, I saw everything. It was beautiful, and it was horrible. Era nodded. This is the bond, not just body, not just feeling, but memory and soul. Suddenly, a sound broke the night, not thunder, not wind, but a voice that echoed across the trees, not through the air, but directly into the mind. Jack dropped to his knees. His skull felt like it was being split apart. Era stood tall. The voice called her name, not Era, but her true name, a sound that didn't exist in human language. It echoed like crystalline flame. She answered in the same tone. The air shimmered around her. Jack looked up through blurred eyes. Figures were appearing in the trees, tall, luminous, their skin like glass, their eyes burning with golden fire. They did not walk, they glittered. Era stepped in front of Jack. One of them raised a hand. Fire in the cabin went out instantly. Another stepped forward, spoke without sound. You have broken the law of form. You have chosen a being below your kind. Era's voice rang clear. I chose connection. I chose freely. The leader's eyes narrowed. You will return with us. You will be cleansed. Era shook her head. No, this bond is mine. You have no right to break it. Jack forced himself to stand. You're not taking her. Not while I breathe. The beings looked at him like one might look at dust. You are temporary. You are matter without purpose. Jack stepped forward, heart pounding. I may be temporary, but I matter to her and she matters to me. That's more than you'll ever understand. The air around them pulsed. The beings looked at Era again. You would give up immortality to feel sadness and pain, to age and die. Era turned to Jack. Her hand found his. Her voice was full of peace. Yes, because I'd rather live a short life with him than an endless one without feeling. The beings stepped back, their forms dimmed slightly. The leader spoke again. Then, you are no longer of us. You are severed. You will not return. You will be forgotten. Era's body shook, but she held Jack's hand tighter. So be it. The beings vanished into the air. The forest returned to silence. Era fell to her knees. Jack caught her. Her glow began to fade. Her body grew cold. He held her close. What did they do? She looked up at him. They cut the link. I'm no longer connected to my people. My powers will fade. My body will change. Jack touched her cheek. You're still you. You're still here, and I'm not letting go. She smiled, eyes half closed. Then let me be human. Let me fall, but let me fall with you. The fire crackled gently inside the cabin. Jack sat on the floor with Era in his arms. Her glow had faded. Her skin, once warm with energy, now felt cool against his chest. But she was still breathing, still alive outside. The forest stood quiet. The glowing beings had vanished, and with them Era's connection to her people, her powers, her birthright. All stripped away because of one choice. Love. Jack stared into her eyes. He saw no regret. You okay? He whispered. She nodded slowly. I'm still here. He helped her to the couch, wrapped her in a blanket, lit another log on the fire, then sat beside her. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was not heavy. It was soft, like a shared heartbeat. Jack broke the silence first. They said you gave up immortality power, all of it, for me. She looked at him, eyes calm and steady. It was never about what I gave up. It was about what I found. When I looked at you, I saw something real. Something I never saw back home. A choice that was mine alone. Jack ran a hand through his hair. I don't understand how you can feel that way about me. I'm just some guy with a broken past. A cabin in the woods and too many scars. Era reached for his hand. To you, that may sound like a curse, but to me it means you survived. It means you felt pain and kept going. That's what love looks like where I come from. Not perfection, but perseverance. Jack didn't know what to say. He just held her hand tighter. Days passed. Era started changing again. But this time it wasn't a painful transformation. It was natural, human. Her glow faded more each day. Her senses became duller. She began to feel cold. She needed sleep, She ate more. Her body was adapting. Jack built a small garden outside. He cooked meals with simple things. He read books to her at night, old poetry, children's stories, things he never thought he'd share with anyone. They laughed together, talked about stars, dreams, life. One afternoon, Era stood by the river behind the cabin. The wind carried her silver hair across her face. Jack approached, wrapped a coat around her shoulders. "You're shaking again." She looked at him, smiled softly. "I think it's what you call cold. I never knew what it felt like until now. It's strange, uncomfortable, but beautiful in its own way." Jack chuckled. "Only you could describe freezing as beautiful." She looked at the water. "Everything feels more real now. Colors are sharper, sounds are richer. When I was connected to the collective, we never had individual senses. No hunger, no fear, no touch." Jack nodded. "And now?" She turned to him, eyes shining without any glow. "Now I feel everything, and I wouldn't trade that for anything." He took her hand. They walked back in silence. That night the stars were bright. Jack set up a blanket outside the cabin. They laid side by side, looking up at the sky. Era pointed at the constellations. "I used to think the stars were home, but now they just feel far away, not in a bad way, just distant, like someone I used to know." Jack turned to her. "You miss them?" She nodded. "I miss who I was, but I love who I'm becoming." He leaned closer. "You're becoming someone I don't want to lose." She looked at him. No fear, no hesitation. "Then don't." Jack's heart beat louder. Not from nerves, but from clarity. He reached for her face, touched her gently. "I don't know how long we have, but whatever time it is, it's yours." Era closed her eyes. "Time doesn't matter when every moment feels like forever." Their lips met under the stars. It wasn't electric. It wasn't perfect. It was human, and that made it everything. The next morning, Jack woke to find Era cooking breakfast. The smell of eggs and herbs filled the cabin. He smiled. "Didn't know you could cook." She turned, holding a wooden spoon awkwardly. "I watched you. I copied what I saw. It's not perfect, but I wanted to try." He walked over, took a bite. "Not bad at all." She looked proud. "I want to learn everything." Jack sat at the table. "And I'll teach you one day at a time." Later that evening, they danced to an old song playing from Jack's dusty radio. Era's movements were unbalanced, but full of joy. She laughed when she stepped on his foot. He laughed when she spun the wrong way. It wasn't about rhythm. It was about presence. Love wasn't a perfect moment. It was a series of small imperfect ones that mattered more. As the night fell and the fire burned low, Era leaned against Jack's chest. "Do you think they'll ever come back?" Jack held her tighter. "Let them. This time I'm ready." She smiled. "You don't need to fight anymore. You've already won. You brought me back from being something I didn't want to be. You made me feel human." Jack kissed the top of her head. "And you made me feel alive." The forest outside whispered softly. The stars blinked, and for the first time in years, the cabin no longer felt like a shelter from the world. It felt like home. The morning sun filtered softly through the cabin windows. Jack woke to the gentle sound of Era breathing beside him. Her skin no longer held the faint glow of alien energy, but the warmth she carried felt stronger than ever. Since the bond had deepened, something had shifted between them, not just in body, but in soul. Jack sat up and looked at her face, so peaceful, so human. Now he reached out and touched her hand, this time without fear, without hesitation. He felt it immediately. A pulse, not just from her skin, but from somewhere deeper, a rhythm syncing with his own heartbeat. Sarah opened her eyes, smiled softly. "Do you feel it too?" Jack nodded. "It's like we are one now, not just connected but part of each other." She sat up slowly, her movements sure and calm. "When we bonded, I thought I would lose myself, but instead I found you inside me." Jack reached for her other hand. They held each other, not just physically, but in a way words could not explain. The world outside the cabin had changed, but inside they had created something new, a new life, a new story. Days passed. Jack's senses began to change as well. He could feel what Era felt. Every pulse of emotion, every flicker of pain or joy. It was overwhelming at first, but soon became natural. Knew when she was happy before she smiled. He felt her fear before she spoke it aloud, and sometimes he could even see through her eyes. A world filled with colors and light he had never imagined. Adara laughed one morning, her voice full of joy. "Are no longer just a man, you are part of me, and I am part of you." Jack smiled back. "Feels like I've been given new eyes, a new heart." Their bond was more than love. It was a fusion of two beings, two souls intertwined stronger together. One afternoon, they walked through the forest, hand in hand, feeling the life around them. Myra stopped suddenly, looked up at the sky. "I see them coming again." Jack followed her gaze far in the distance, a flicker of light, a hint of movement. The beings from her world, the ones who had severed her connection, were returning. Jack's grip tightened on her hand. "We will face them together." That night the cabin was quiet, but their hearts were full of tension. Era spoke softly. "They have no power over us. Now, not while we are bonded like this." Jack kissed her forehead. "I believe you." The next day the beings arrived. They stepped from the shadows of the trees, their eyes glowing, their forms shimmering. But this time, they did not come to take Era back. They came to see. The leaders spoke without words, but Jack understood the message clearly. "You have changed her. You have changed her bond." Era stepped forward, her voice strong. "The bond is no longer just between me and the human. It is between two souls, two species, two worlds." The beings looked at each other, then back at Jack and Era. They bowed their heads in respect. Jack realized they were not enemies anymore. They were witnesses to something new. Aura smiled. "We are more than what we were born to be. We are what we choose to become." Jack squeezed her hand together. They had changed the rules, written a new future, and nothing would ever be the same again. The night was quiet but heavy with meaning. Jack and Era sat outside the cabin under the stars. The air was cool and still, but the world felt fragile, like the calm before a storm. Era looked up at the endless sky, her silver eyes reflecting the stars, her hand resting in Jack's. "I thought I knew what choice meant, but now I see it is more than deciding. It is giving up everything you were to become something new." Jack squeezed her hand gently. "You already gave so much. Your powers, your home, your people." She turned to him, a soft smile on her lips. "Yes, but the cost is greater than I imagined." Jack noticed the change. Her skin paler now, her movements slower, the light inside her dimming. "What is happening?" she sighed. "The severance cut me off from my people, but it also took part of my life force. Each day I grow weaker. My time here is shorter." Jack's heart clenched. "No, we will find a way. We can fix this." Era shook her head. "Some things cannot be undone. This is my fate, but I do not regret it." She reached out, touched his cheek. "Because I found love, a love worth dying for." Jack pulled her close, his voice breaking. "I don't want to lose you." She smiled through her pain. "Then hold me now, hold me like the stars hold the night, because when I go, I want to know I was loved." Days turned into weeks. Era's strength faded, but her spirit stayed fierce. Jack cared for her, every moment, every breath, every heartbeat. He told her stories of Earth, of his childhood, of dreams he never chased. She listened, eyes bright with love and sadness. One evening, as the sun set, Era reached for Jack's hand. "I want you to promise me something." Jack nodded. "Anything." She looked at him. "When I am gone, keep living, keep fighting, keep loving." Tears streamed down Jack's face. "I promise." Her smile was peaceful. The final night came. Stars blanketed the sky. The forest whispered around them. Ira lay in Jack's arms, her breathing shallow, her eyes half closed. Jack whispered, "You are not alone." She smiled faintly. "I am with you always." Her hand slipped from her body went still. Jack held her close, feeling the emptiness flood in, but he also felt something else, a warmth, a light inside his chest. The bond they shared still alive, still beating. He looked up at the stars and whispered back, "Thank you for choosing me." And in the silence of the forest, a human and an alien forever linked by love that transcended worlds.